Tupac Shakur, one of the most recognizable voices in rap history, was a mythical figure marked by a polarizing personality that was as liberated as it was condemned. Throughout his life and unto his tragic death, Pac was haunted and engulfed by the 7 deadly sins. In the course of his career, they unraveled one after another to greater and greater intensity until one fateful night where it all culminated into his final downfall. Wrath. Wrath is defined as uncontrolled feelings of anger, rage, and even hatred. Tupac's downfall and untimely tragic death can take majority blame in his dramatic flair for trying to outdo and eliminate all his enemies. In his 1996 diss track, Hit 'Em Up, his wrath knew no bounds and he took no prisoners. With blind fury, Tupac uttered the infamous opening lines, "That's why I f***ed your bitch, you fat motherfucker," in which he not only attacked whom he misattributed his gunshot wounds to rival Biggie Smalls, but the whole Junior Mafia crew, P. Diddy, Lil Kim, and even Mobb Deep. The line, "Though one of you niggas got sickle cell or something," was directed at Prodigy, who suffered from sickle cell disease. The disses would not stop. In the opening track to his posthumous album, The Donk Illuminati, The 7-Day Theory, Bomb First, My Second Reply, he launched another full frontal assault, this time including Jay-Z and Nas. And, against all odds, with a laundry list of names such as Dr. Dre, De La Soul, and Jimmy Hinchman Roseman. Severing all ties with label mates and several rappers, it showcased Pac as a staunch personification of one man against the world. Even so, the album was lauded for his emotion, particularly the one that got him killed, along with its eerie nature brooding throughout the record. Unfortunately, the worst was yet to come. On September 7, 1996, while attending a Mike Tyson fight in Las Vegas, one of Suge Knight's associates spotted viral Compton Crip gang member Orlando Anderson at the hotel lobby of the MGM Grand Hotel. Tupac and his crew jumped and kicked Orlando Anderson while he was on the ground. As the story goes, Tupac was shot just hours later while driving to Club 662. 4 shots had hit him and he died 7 days later. It remains a heartbreaking curiosity that if Tupac had learned to keep his anger in check, he would still probably be alive today. Pride. Pride is considered the deadliest of the 7 sins, characterized by an excessive love of one's own excellence, the sin commonly associated with Satan before his downfall. Opposite of humility and shame, a modern reader may see it as when Indian guru Meher Baba put it, the specific feeling through which egotism manifests. In Pac's case, it was his excessive ego at times that got him in trouble. His beef with Biggie created one of the most long-lasting and impactful rivalries in hip-hop history. Whereas wrath was the outcome, pride was the cause. On November 30th, 1994, Pac was robbed and shot multiple times outside of Quad Studios in Times Square. Despite Biggie denying any involvement in the shooting, Pac refused to shake off the animosity he held for his former friend. In a 1995 interview with Vibe magazine, Tupac clarified his animosity towards Biggie and others for the lack of support. He also felt Biggie was stealing his style, thus fueling what would ensue to be the inevitable beef. Both rappers would have not been more dissimilar in certain aspects, and his refusal to acknowledge what may have prompted Biggie's lack of support or reconcile any differences came solely from Pac. In his eyes, he was the big brother, the one who knew better. Such vanity brought him to believe he was going to change the world even if it meant that his indiscretions were justified. Lust. Lust is the sin mostly defined as insatiable sexual desire. Tupac's thirst for women led him into legal troubles during a November 1993 sexual assault case. The 19-year-old woman, Ayanna Jackson, filed a lawsuit after claiming Tupac and 3 other men forced her to perform oral sex on them. She stated that she had gotten intimate with Pac earlier that day on a public dance floor of a Manhattan nightclub. Although jurors acquitted him on 3 accounts of sodomy, he was still charged with possession of a firearm and sexual abuse, the latter in regards to him groping her. In a Vlad TV interview on January 2018, Jackson said,
"He was laying across the couch. He was laying there with his head back and his eyes closed. And he looked up at me and I looked at him. And then I said, 'How could you let this happen to me?' And I was screaming, but I didn't say it in that demeanor, of course, at that time. I was screaming. And he looked at me, and he looked me dead in the eye. He says, 'Get this bitch out of here.'"
After the trial, Tupac was sentenced and served nearly 8 months in prison before being released on October 1995. Gluttony. Gluttony is the uncontrolled and inappropriate overconsumption of food and drink, generally speaking, but also encompasses smoking and hoarding of items. In a 2016 Hot 97 interview, Lil Kim recalls a time of how Tupac brought a garbage bag of weed to Biggie. In the 2003 documentary film Tupac Resurrection, Pac admits at one point that he was so deep into the weed and that getting drunk kept him from going insane. There's also no doubt the copious references he made to smoking weed and drinking alcohol took on an excessive function to store up and dorm childhood trauma, from his mother smoking crack to growing up without lights and scarce of food. In an April 1995 interview, shortly after being released from prison, Pac said, "Well, the first 2 days in prison, I had to go through what life is like when you've been smoking weed for as long as I have, and then you stop. Emotionally, it was like I didn't know myself. My brain was half dead from smoking so much weed. I'd be in my hotel room, smoking too much, drinking, going to clubs, just being numb. Then I started seeing my situation and what got me here." Weed is one of the more forgivable drugs. Quitting abruptly will not precipitate a devastating array of effects like that of alcohol or opiates. Yet for Pac to be so clouded and disoriented by his withdrawal in prison is akin, although not equal, to an addiction. In the same interview, he said, "That was the addict speaking. The addict knew if I went to jail, then it couldn't live. The addict in Tupac is dead." Sloth. Sloth is defined simply as laziness, inactivity, and disinclination to put forth effort. Pac was young, enterprising, and studious. No doubt his success stemmed from his creativity and courage. At other times, he could be unkempt, indolent, and prone to falling into periods of being completely undisciplined. In a 1996 Esquire article, it was reported that director John Singleton, while in the middle of filming Poetic Justice, grew upset when Pac would either delay shooting by smoking weed in his trailer or show up hours later to set. His first apartment in Oakland, in which he lived in for 4 years, was notoriously messy. In 2021, rapper Shock G spoke to Wax Poetics on Pac's living conditions. At Tupac's first apartment, MacArthur Boulevard, Oakland, the stack of dirty dishes in the sink was so high it would lean against the refrigerator, while the pile of pizza boxes and takeout containers towering from his big outdoor-style garbage can would do the same on the opposite side. Sometimes, it would get so tall that it met the loose junk on top. Cereal boxes, magazines, baskets of snacks, papers, and formed a rainbow of garbage. Greed. Greed is the excessive desire for material gain, be it food, money, land, or animate/inanimate possessions, or social values such as status or power. In a 1992 MTV interview, Pac disparages this attitude, criticizing a figure like Trump for his inordinate amount of capital. Yet Tupac's thug persona, contrary to his thoughtful and socially conscious side, allowed him to play both parts in contradictory fashion. Perhaps it was the massive amounts of fame and success he garnered as the West Coast golden child, with 4 of his albums going platinum. As MC8 in a DJ Vlad interview once said,
"When you got $1 billion in your pocket and you can hire 100 security guards, you do what the you want to do." They start doing it because I feel like I'm a badass motherfucker and I can do what I want.
This is in addition to Tupac's pursuits of being an actor and a political activist. To be seen and respected through a prism of multiple affiliations where one would just do says something of Pac's accumulative nature. After all, greed also stands in contrast to gratitude. Whereas Pac may have been ambitious and conscientious to help others out, and as MC8 said, falling into a gang member lifestyle was a massive step backwards for Pac. Envy. Envy is often confused with jealousy. Envy, like greed, is based on a specific lack one might have in one's life. It's an underlying discontent prompted by what another person has that you don't. But whereas jealousy means being overprotective over one's possession, envy has a mixture of admiration in it. Money became a political topic in the subtext of Tupac's music. A notable line from Keep Your Head Up: "They got money for wars, but can't feed the poor." And in his interviews, he elaborates with zeal and fury about how homelessness in urban neighborhoods still stands as a symptom of America's distorted social policies. Many rappers unapologetically embrace the capitalist dictum of luxury and excess, but Pac, knowingly affected by a stark class division, hinted at a deeper intelligence. In a 1995 interview with MTV News, he told reporter Tabitha Soren that he wouldn't spill all the pain he suffered because then I wouldn't get no money for my pain. Contrast this with his 1992 MTV News interview where, as he's attacking the idea that millionaires could even exist, or that they should, he says black people don't need 40 acres and a mule, but help. Such was the duality of Tupac. While intent in one direction, he was stared into another. Extensive studies have been documented on the feelings of isolation and resentment poor people have towards the rich. But on the other hand, those who've climbed the ladder of success can be summarized with the, if I can do it, so can they. Tupac, for all his talk of unity, openly lived a celebrity lifestyle, and before tax fees and lawsuits consumed much of his net worth, he had boasted enough to live securely. Tupac was an enigmatic character, full of contradiction and conflict. He perhaps embodied more than any rapper before him or after hip-hop's most dynamic and disparate characteristics. At once a poet and activist, a martyr whose sensitivity to social issues have been examined and appraised since his death. The other side to Tupac, a trauma-ridden hothead with a self-destructive proclivity to play thug at the expense of his life, whose overlapping sins led to his subsequent downfall.